We have a problem, and it's called throwaway culture. The phrase throwaway living was first used by Life magazine in 1955 to describe the consumer shift from reusables to disposables, and they didn't use it in an ironic way either, in case you're wondering. No, it was seen as a positive thing. With the advent of household disposables such as paper napkins, disposable plates and cutlery, diapers, and microwave dinners came a culture of convenience. Exhausted housewives in particular were marketed to, as they understandably needed a break from the never-ending chores of cooking, cleaning, and laundry. Not only were disposables touted by madmen as miracle time savers though, they were also considered much more hygienic and, get this, more eco-friendly. You can take that little bit of greenwashing up with the Coca-Cola company, which, shocker, also happens to be the world's biggest plastic polluter. Easy going for the consumer or the manufacturer? You decide. So while our oceans fill up with more plastic than fish, trees are getting cut down by the millions every year to make single-use paper products, and our recycling system not quite holding up as the perfect system we were told it was, throwaway culture is simply not sustainable, to put it in the least dramatic way I possibly can. Now, while I do think manufacturers should bear the majority of the blame for this so-called throwaway culture, looking at you, Coca-Cola, I also think we as consumers should take some of the responsibility and try to reduce our dependence on single-use items. Or, at the very least, question whether items that were literally designed to be sent straight to the landfill, or best case scenario, the recycling plant, are actually useful beyond their intended purposes. So I wanted to dedicate this video to the things I reuse instead of tossing, with an energetic, emphatic F you to throwaway culture. This might be an obvious one, but they're such a convenient and useful thing to have around with infinity different applications. Of course, glass jars and bottles are gonna be number one. I find myself gravitating towards specific types of jars that I know can easily be reused, like candle jars. You can clean them out by either adding boiling water to the jar or freezing until the wax is easily removed. I love to turn them into propagation vessels. Just pop your cuttings into some water, make sure you're changing the water out frequently, and wait for the roots to develop before potting on into some soil. Or if you're lazy, just like me, leave them in the jars of water forever. And moving on to food storage, I've amassed quite the collection of Trader Joe's tahini jars over the last few years. Very proud. They're the perfect size to freeze exactly 1 cup of veggie broth with enough headspace as to not explode when you put them in the freezer. I've also been known to reuse maple syrup bottles, dressing bottles, and liquor bottles to keep my infused vinegars fresh. And these peanut butter jars, this brand is a little bit pricier than I would normally spend on peanut butter, but I love the jar so much that when it goes on sale, I will buy it. Since I try to opt for zero-waste toiletries whenever I can, most of the containers that the products come in are absolutely 1000% ideal for reusing or repurposing. I wash the containers out and sterilize as necessary, so they're always ready to go for when I want to try my own DIY product. For instance, this used to be a toner from Urban Organics, and when it was empty, I put my own DIY rose and calendula infused witch hazel in it. I ran out of that a few months ago though, so this is just plain witch hazel, by the way. This used to be a CBD oil bottle, and when it was empty, I put my own homemade makeup remover in it. I think this was vitamin D, and now it holds my DIY linen spray. And I thrifted the nozzle at a secondhand craft store. This aloe pup is in what used to be a roll-on deodorant. And this used to hold toothpaste tabs from by Humankind, but when I needed to store some homemade hand cream to keep on my nightstand, I thought it'd be the perfect little holder. Even if toothbrushes lose their effectiveness at cleaning our filthy, disgusting mouths, they're still useful in other applications. I actually never throw them out because they're so handy for cleaning all the little nooks and crannies like sink drains, faucets, grout, and around the tushy bidet, which, as much as I love it, does tend to accumulate dust in its little crevices. And I want you to be the first to know it, but I've been influenced. That's right, I've seen people use toothbrushes once they remove the bristles to use as plant markers in their garden. And I think that's so cute, so I tried it. Just remove the bristles and throw them away first. I actually put the bristles in a non-recyclable plastic bag and then tied it up and threw that away so that the bristles couldn't get out and contaminate any ecosystems. Or if you're 100% sure the bristles are 100% compostable, go ahead and do that. Not all of them are, so just make sure you're sure. Okay, plastic clamshells and tubs. These, for the purposes I use them for, they need to not have perforations in them. Strawberry containers would not work for this. I often buy local lettuce in these types of plastic containers, and the large ones are so perfect for bottom watering my houseplants. If you're unfamiliar with bottom watering, it basically just means that instead of watering from overhead, a little visual aid to demonstrate. Instead of watering from overhead, you submerge the plant in a basin of water. I think it's osmosis, trying not to botch science. The water gets soaked up through the bottom and dispersed throughout the root system and the soil. Hope I did a good job explaining that. This is really great for when your plant becomes really dry and starts to repel water instead of absorbing it. You might notice this when you water the plant from overhead and the water just immediately starts draining out the bottom. But when you poke your finger into the soil, it's still kind of dry. That's why I bottom water. And as for the smaller plastic clamshells or lidded tubs, I use these in the bulk section, especially when I want to get something sticky like dates or prunes, and I don't want to use a reusable cloth bag because then the fibers from the cloth bag will stick to the dried sticky fruit, and I can't do that. Sensory issues. And I also don't want to use a plastic bag either because washing them out is more difficult with the sticky stuff, getting all the gunk out. So the more sturdy, smaller plastic tubs with the lids are ideal. I mentioned in my minimal waste kitchen tour that we keep plastic bags like this and reuse them for so many different reasons. If you haven't seen that video yet, I'll link it up top, and here's what the video looks like. First of all, they're perfect for freezing package-free bread. So we usually buy 2 loaves of bread at a time in our own linen bags, and when we get home, we'll transfer one of the loaves to a plastic bag and put that straight in the freezer. And they don't last forever this way, but we're not trying to stockpile here. We're just trying to bridge the gap in case we can't get back to the store in time. And we use these little Ziploc baggies for spices in the bulk section. We may or may not have started doing this when a jar we brought from home fell out of the cart and broke, which may or may not have been so embarrassing. It's much easier to bring these to the bulk store. That way there's no chance of causing a scene when our jars break. And obviously it's easier to travel with a few weightless bags than to schlep 10 pounds of glass and metal to the bulk store. Just speaking from personal experience, you do you. And here's a silver lining I wasn't expecting. So it sometimes starts up a conversation with the cashier about reducing plastic waste when they notice that our little bags have been reused a quadrillion times, judging by the crossed out PLUs on them. So that's cute. And plastic bags are also great for picking up trash when you're on a walk or whatever. You just wash them out as necessary, which isn't often. And here's a pro tip for reusing plastic grocery bags. Oh wait, and here's a pro tip for using plastic grocery bags. If you wanna use a pretty vintage basket as a plant holder, just line the basket with a plastic bag and that will prevent water damage. Now, though plastic lasts in the environment forever, it does wear down over time. So when they start getting holes in them, I collect them in this, which incidentally is another throwaway thing that I decided to keep reusing, wink wink, and take them to a grocery store that recycles plastic film. It's very common at major chain grocery stores, so make sure you have a look around if you're unsure. And before we move on to the next thing that I reuse instead of tossing, if you've gotten any value from this video, please don't hesitate to give the thumbs up or subscribe if you want to see more of my videos. Likes are free, and so is reusing crap that would otherwise be thrown in the trash can. I literally can't remember the last time I bought any sort of gift wrapping or packaging material of any sort, because even in the before, when I wasn't low waste yet, I was still a supreme penny pincher of the highest order. I collect anything that can be reused for gift wrapping in this bag, so I never have to buy a thing. I actually save all the paper wrapping from our real toilet paper too, to reuse like tissue paper. No one's ever told me it offended them, so I'm gonna keep doing it. When we look at the 5 R's of reducing waste, there's a reason why reuse comes before recycle. And that's because reusing something over and over again has a lower impact than using something once and crossing your fingers that it actually gets recycled. And there's an even bigger reason why recklessly tossing everything in the trash can didn't make it to the list. First of all, it's not nearly as succinct as the others. With throwaway culture, convenience culture, however you like to call it, there seems to be so little respect for the resources that go into making or packaging the products we buy. But these things have value beyond just temporarily holding our strawberry jam. So let me know in the comments what you choose to reuse. And if you're interested in saving other scarce resources like money, I hope you'll check out this video next. It's all about the other 5 R's, refusing and reducing. Hope everyone's okay. This is wine. Sweating, can you see that?